Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily podcast. Now, we have had guests from over 70 different countries on this podcast sharing their story, and I think it's that diversity that makes this show what it is. And at a time where we continuously talk about the importance of getting more women into technology, I have another great story that's going to inspire you all today, because Sparkseeker's founder and CEO Callista Zacharias is going to join me on the podcast today to share her incredibly engaging story about building a new healthy alternative to current social media apps. And let's be honest, we all know that social media apps have algorithms designed to keep us scrolling. And after a few hours, we very often can't even remember anything about what we just consumed. And maybe sat there and reflected on that there has to be a better way. Well, there is. So I want to learn more about how Sparkseeker is combining humane data practices, emotional wellness and social good all in one video-centric platform, and the story behind it. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to the US, where she's waiting to share her story with us today. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Well, thank you so much for having me. My name is Callista Zacharias. I'm the founder and CEO of Sparkseeker. And Sparkseeker is a new social media app, and it's reformed to be good for you while giving back.
Fantastic. And I'd love to take you back in time for a moment, before even social media sites were even a thing. I mean, can you remember where your passion for tech and connecting and everything, where all that came from, and the moment that put you on the path that you're on today?
Very interesting question. See, I call myself an accidental entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I stumbled into entrepreneurship at a very early age. I grew up in and out of foster care and on and off the streets. And I actually became an entrepreneur because I wanted to get a job that wouldn't fire me because I was too young to work there. So, made a couple of really great choices, was able to exit out of some companies very early in life and got to a pretty good place. And I think, my sister always says your purpose and your pain are deeply connected. And I think that's where my desire for connection came in. See, when I was growing up, I was very, very privileged in the sense that my experiences happened in North America. My life may have turned out very differently had I had been in a third world country. But nevertheless, it was very challenging. Help was often hard to find. I would find myself in all kinds of libraries at all hours of the day trying to get self-help books. But the world that I lived in always made me feel at that young age as if there were answers out there, there were solutions out there was somewhere out there, but far beyond my reach. It was always, take this antidepressant or go to that self-help seminar, or there's a 12-step program to this, and everything was attached to money. And so there was this deep loneliness and there was this deep thirst within me to personally develop myself and work my way out of what was a very difficult time at that age. And so I made this promise to myself, even well-intentioned people that wanted to help were so consumed with their day-to-day lives that I kind of made a commitment to myself at a very young age that at some point in my life, when I could do better, I would. So there was this moment, I want to say about maybe 7 years ago, I was in Toronto and I had gone out to the car to scrape the ice off the windshield. And I put my car on and turned the seat warmer on and threw my fancy purse on the passenger seat and cleaned off all the snow and ice off my windshield. And then I got in and I was flipping down the mirror, clearing the ice off my face. And in this moment, it was this, I remember it exactly as if it were yesterday. I felt like the biggest loser. And I couldn't shake this feeling. I was like, look how far this girl has come. I've grown into this woman who is living better, doing better. So what happened to the girl that made that promise a long time ago to do something? And that sort of turned a page in my life where I actually physically hit reset. And 2 weeks later, I found myself packing up my stuff. I had no green card, driving across the border to a place where I knew no one, and came to Florida with an SUV full of like my most important things. And no word of a lie, it was that literal. And then I sat there and joined all these different online communities on other existing platforms like Facebook, looking really for community. I really just wanted to find community where I could start doing some good work, where I could lend my time and talents, or where I could maybe start a community. And I found myself there for hours, endlessly scrolling. Somehow I had wasted 4 hours of my day. There was so much misinformation and disinformation and polarizing politics and hate speech and bullying. And then I just found myself being, scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And next thing you know, it was the end of the day. And what had I accomplished? Yeah. And there was this aha moment where it's like, here I am looking for connection and community. And here I am being sucked into this vortex of stuff that there was no tangible gain. I had wasted my entire day and I didn't feel good leaving that experience. And then every time I went onto these platforms after, I would see all kinds of content that I had no interest in seeing. So it helped me identify a real problem. But of course, back in those days, there was very little stats and very little data around this. Social Dilemma, the documentary, had not been released. There was a few facts on like Pew's Research Center or Statista. There was very little to go on. So, that's what sort of started the journey and said, okay, you know what, there's a problem here. We need to do something about it. I had done one other tech platform in my life before. So I was like, okay, there's a huge learning curve ahead, but you know what? Something tells me I can do this. So let's go. Let's do it.
Wow, what an incredibly powerful story. And I think that story of endlessly scrolling or doom scrolling and wasting 4 hours of your time and not being able to remember anything of what you've done for the last 4 hours, and suddenly that realization that comes over you that you've just completely wasted 4 hours of your life will resonate with so many people listening. We've all done it, and I include myself in that. And although I might just sit around and complain about it, you went out there and did something about it. As you said, that path led you to Sparkseeker, which is a new healthy alternative to everything we've just described. And does that, I believe, by combining human data practices, emotional wellness and social good all in one video-centric platform. So I've got to find out more about this. Can you tell me how you do it and the problem you set out to solve with tech and how it all works?
It's been an undertaking. First, I think you have to understand what you're dealing with. So we spent a couple of years in a deep dive research of exactly how these platforms work. I don't believe technology is bad. I think technology is neither good nor bad. It's super neutral. It's all what we humans decide to tell it to do and our motivations behind why we tell it to do it. That's what determines whether that experience is healthy or unhealthy. So we use the principles of humane technology. So for a lot of people, they don't even really know what that means. So we obsessed over values. We obsessed over ethical practices. And we developed a set of standards called the Sparkseeker way, which became sort of our foundation for every single decision we make, for who we hire, for how we develop the products, features that we do. And not just that, but for what we don't do. So we started with that. And then we looked at neuroscience because, it's not just about removing the harmful stuff. The average person is spending almost 3 hours a day scrolling online. Now, recent data says that teenagers, Gen Zers, millennials are spending sometimes up to 9 hours a day on these platforms. So when you are what you consume, so when you are on these platforms for such extraordinary amounts of time, how much of your life you're giving to that? How can we make these platforms not just do the least amount of harm, but how can we have it do good? So we sat down and we looked at neuroscience data and we really looked at what is it, that we're going to remove. So we took out all the harmful stuff. We didn't want to completely reinvent it because you want to minimize the learning curve. So we just looked at the existing models. We took out all the harmful stuff. And then we sat there and created features that were going to support emotional wellness. I can give you specific examples on that.
Yes.
And so one of the things that we do, like let's just take one little example. We say our platform is entirely video-centric. What does that mean? Because, a TikTok can say, hey, we're video centric.
Yeah.
YouTube can say we're video centric. You're absolutely right. What makes us different and sets us apart is that there's a lot of downside to the comment feature. This is where fake bots hang out, deep bots hang out, trolls hang out, and bullies hang out. There's absolutely no accountability. And, in everyday life, when we're talking to each other, if I say something offensive to you, we get to develop these social emotional cues. Oh, I said something to hurt Neil. So what did I say? It makes me think there's a layer of accountability there. That desensitization is so prevalent in social media because there is so much anonymity behind this keyboard. People get away with saying horrible things, hateful things. That is why mental health is on the decline. Suicide is on the increase. Cyberbullying is out of control. And generally speaking, over 64% of North Americans believe that these platforms do more harm than good. So what we did was we took away the comment feature and we put in a video comment. So now you have to put your face to it.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, it is, because now, it doesn't stop you from being a jerk. Yeah. But, there's a level of responsibility attached to the fact that you're putting your face to it. Now, if you want to turn your camera down and still say something nasty, well, you know what? Our systems are going to pick up on that kind of behavior. And then we have a three strikes and you're out rule. So we developed, all of our features, even our community building, like and follow, we got rid of that. What is a like and follow? Like in everyday life, if I said, I like you, Neil, and I walked around and I followed you and I poked you every now and then, I said, I like you, you would probably have me arrested and maybe a restraining order. So, but somehow in the online world, this is a normal. And this is not just a normal, but it's a desired metric, a vanity metric that we are seeking. We are like creating content for that validation. We're proving our worth to marketers based on how much of that we can generate. If that isn't a basis for a toxic example of how these platforms are doing more harm, I don't know what is. So what we did was, let's dial it back. Let's bring the humanity back to the technological world. We created video-based community building. So there's no more likes. There's no more follows. If you want to build community, you need to sit down as you would in real life and create these campfires. And these can be one-offs or reoccurrings. And whether you're an individual stay-at-home mom who wants to start a 5 minutes in the morning mindfulness practice, or you are an experienced marketer or a brand that really wants to build brand affinity and brand loyalty again, you have to create these campfires, sit down, listen to people, talk to people, share your ideas, exchange conversation with them so that you can build real relationships. And these real relationships are the way forward in this online world. That's going to bring us real engagement. It's going to get rid of fake bots and deep bots. It's going to help us have a deeper level of understanding of each other. And, I would say the COVID was the perfect example for it. You saw left-wing, right-wing extremists, all kinds of people saying all kinds of stuff. But if you really listened to the narrative, everybody was saying, what didn't matter what side you were on, scared. I want to go back to work. I want to go back to my life. I want to be able to provide for my families. I need to know that I can trust, that I'm safe. I want to know what my government's doing for me. These were the conversations. And no one was listening to each other. And so these features are really about creating understanding, building true community, creating real engagement. And so that's just one example of that video-centric piece of that we're doing. Everything on Sparkseeker is based on video. And it's all about social emotional learning and raising the emotional intelligence of people.
And every single thing that you just spoke about there is solving a universal problem. We'll have people listening all over the world, and everyone will be able to relate to everything that you're saying here. But I'm curious, who is your target audience? Because potentially it is everybody, but did you have an audience in mind when you created it?
We sat with this for a long time because you can be very broad and you can say, yes, it's everybody who currently uses social media platforms. I have a tremendous amount of faith in humanity. So I'll start by saying the first definition for our target audience is We don't have anybody on our platform called users, by the way. They're all referred to as seekers.
Yeah.
So seekers who are hungry and ready for change. They're frustrated with the status quo. They want something more, but they haven't found a better alternative. So they are where they are currently. And beyond that, I would say I'm very eager to connect with the Gen Z and millennial audience, also the Gen X audience. I do believe that they're going to be the largest demographic in the world by 2026. They are invested. They care about social responsibility. They are demanding that companies do more. And they are the activists, and they are big into advocacy. So really, I'm very keen to connect with them and build a relationship with them.
And of course, we are approaching that time of year where we're all in a reflective kind of mood, reflecting on everything that has happened throughout the year, but also got one eye on January and how we've got an opportunity to change things and be a better version of ourselves and maybe get rid of some of those bad habits. So for anybody listening that wants to be a seeker, can you just walk me through how it works? Well, first of all, how they can download it and get up and running, and then how it works and how people listening can get the most out of it and the value that it could bring them.
So like I said, we kept some of the stuff that does work. So the app does have a stream, and you can do 3 very specific things on Sparkseeker, amongst all the other little things, great features, but there's 3 main components to it. There's something called Sparks. Sparks are best explained as you posting anything that you want to post about, as you would on any other social platform. What's going on in your life? What's something that interests you, that inspires you? What's something you want to learn about or educate somebody about? Anything really that you want to post about is a spark. If you want to build your community, you go in and create campfires. That's a standalone feature as well. And then there's something else called actions. See, we don't want to keep you online scrolling forever and ever and ever. If there's something there that you see as a spark that somebody's posted that inspires you, let's get a use case going. Somebody in Mexico is talking about eliminating single-use plastics in their home, and they are having all these kinds of green practices. You can actually long hold on that and create a campfire and create a discussion around it, or you can take action and do a community event within your own community. So the actions feature is really cool, and these are all standalone features, or they can be married into each other. You can create your own actions, your own campfires, or you can use somebody else's posts as a launch pad for the kind of things that you want to do out in the world. So it's really about come in, get what you need to from this platform, but then go out there and create and be part of change, or at least enjoy a healthy platform while we do some of the other good stuff for you.
Love that. And I'd love to take, as it's a tech podcast, I'd love to take a little peek under the hood. So can you tell me a little bit more about some of the tech that makes it possible and helps you bring together the humane data practices, emotional wellness, social good, etc. in this video-centric platform? Because although for the most part people just want it to work and want to reap the benefits, there's a lot of technology under the hood that makes this possible, right?
Absolutely. We've actually got no third-party tracking. So we're not listening to you when you go, we're not listening to your stuff. Yeah. We're not tracking everything you watch, how long you're watching it for, what you're searching online. So there's no third-party tracking at all. All of our data is encrypted at rest and in transit. In most places, you have the opt-out feature. Ours is opt-in. You have to actually opt in if you want certain things. And our secret authentication is actually supported by external state-of-the-art systems that exceed multiple compliance requirements. On Sparkseeker, seekers are the ones to really select their preferences and set parameters of how they want to interact. We take you through a wizard. We don't have invasive algorithms at all. We don't have any invasive data practices, actually. The seeker, it lets us know what they want to see, and they can go back in and modify that at any time.
And it's like we've almost been conditioned with social media over the last decade or so that we've almost accepted invasive data practices, harmful algorithms or streaming ads that follow us around the internet, etc. Was just eradicating those thorny issues of privacy and creating an alternative, healthy experience from the outset. Was that something that was just paramount to you?
It's the mountain we stand on. It's the air we breathe. Yeah. So when I say we started out, before we even wrote one line of code, we created something called the Sparkseeker way. It's our own credo of sorts of the things that we will and will not do. And, creating any kind of technology that is intended to exploit users, our seekers, we will not engage in. And, for us, it's not just doing the least amount of harm, it's how much good can we do. So, we didn't talk about this yet, but, whether you're taking actions out through our actions feature or simply just using our platform for privacy and safety, we are subscription based. So a portion of all of our revenue goes towards high impact organizations that are doing great work in this world, because we want to empower every seeker to say that they can be part of change. Part of what we, yes, it's a social media app. I get that. But we're so much more than a social media app. This is really a movement and a call to action for people to show up and start creating a better world. I don't like privacy and data practices. Well, I can sit there and complain about it. I can say my government's not doing enough. I can say the technology companies are doing enough. But what am I going to do about it? Now, not everybody has the means to go out and develop a social app, but I chose to do that. We could say, there's climate crisis issues. We can say that there is, we don't like the political leaders in our country, but what do? Do we vote? Do we get rid of single-use plastics? We complain about data and privacy, but are we willing to pay? Because, a lot of these other platforms are not running a charity. They're running a business. And your data is at the heart of their revenue model. So if you don't want your data to be pillaged, if you don't want to be exploited, what are you willing to do about it? Are you willing to give up a cup of coffee a month to protect that? And so while you're scrolling on a good, healthy social app, someone else gets to eat, drink clean water, or go to school, because we do work with high impact organizations and we are revenue sharing. So, there's a bigger movement that we're trying to create beyond just a healthy social experience.
And it's that movement that excites me, because I think we all complain and possibly point at others that we want them to make the change that we want to see, rather than looking inwardly at ourselves. And I'm curious, as a female founder that's disrupting an entire industry and looking to create positive change, have you had to break through any barriers? And what advice would you have to any female founders listening to our conversation today?
Well, that's a touchy subject for me. I am a female, I'm a visible minority, and I understand, reparations need to be made historically for the some of the disadvantages that we've had to, and we still sometimes have to go through. I'm also a mother to 2 boys. And so I have a very unique lens in the sense that I say there are challenges. There will always be challenges, but there are. And I said that I have a deep, deep respect and faith in humanity. And for every person that's going to create a roadblock for you, for every struggle that you'll face, there'll be someone out there who says, hey, I'm excited. How can I help? Yeah. Communicate your idea, share your idea, talk to people, because you will find people that resonate with your idea, that want to come on board and support the process. And don't overthink everything. Look at the step in front of you, because it's a series of your choices that becomes a sum of my life. My life is living proof. I am living proof of that. So just don't overthink everything. Ask for help. And don't think that, yes, as a female founder, we do have some challenges ahead of us. There are some roadblocks, but there is so much happening for us. There are funds being created. There are mentorship programs being created to support women. Tap into those, because the world is changing. And, we need to at some point say, yeah, things were hard. Things have been hard. There have been people that have paved the way for us to be where we are today. So instead of always just complaining about the older problem that happened to someone else, let's focus in on all the people that are creating all these great opportunities for us. Let's leverage that, and let's create new ceilings for future generations to shatter.
Absolutely love your positive energy and such a can-do attitude. It really is inspirational. And if we look back a few months ago, Sparkseeker is now fully built, and it launched its crowdfunding campaign. I think it was earlier in the summer, and crowdfunding contributors will soon receive early access to the app's private beta testing phase. But how's it all going? Can you tell us a little bit more about your roadmap for next year and what we can expect?
Yeah, we actually have already launched our private beta phase. We set up the crowdfunding campaign not really to raise funds, but really to see, in our private beta, who could we get on early? How can we start building our list of people who are going to come on board and help us, build that initial traction? How can we start getting content and testing the features? And as we bring people on, how is the platform performing? And so that's been going really well. We've only onboarded, I would say, about a third of the people who have signed up or contributed to the campaign. It's going really well. We're hoping to get to a traction of about 3,000 people before we launch onto app stores, and that should be happening in Q1 of 2023. And we're really connecting with strategic partners. We're looking to see who's going to work with us from the tech side of things, but we're also looking at different influencers who are using their platforms for more than just, being popular, but they're really leveraging, their position on a global or national platform to do social good. So we're really working with content creators, really onboarding great content and starting to look at scaling.
Fantastic. And can't thank you enough for coming on here and sharing the story behind the company. And it's going to see if there's some way I can repay you for coming on here and sharing your story. Now, some of the biggest names in business, VC funding and tech have either been guests on this podcast or maybe even listened. So if I was to ask you, is that a person that you would love to have a private breakfast or lunch with, and why? Because they might be listening. Who would you say and why? Because we can send something out into the ether and see if we can make something happen for you.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me. That would in itself, just helping us spread the word is amazing. But if I was to want to have one person, there's so many amazing people out there. So if I was to pick one person, okay, there's this incredible powerhouse of a woman. Her name is Angela Acharya.
Yeah.
She is an entrepreneur. She's a philanthropist. She's an angel investor, but why I think she's a powerhouse is that she's able to see talent, and she has this amazing insight and amazing instincts. And I think her background is just so varied, from entertainment to media to tech to all kinds of stuff, that I think she's just got such a diverse lens in which she would see things through. I think a mentorship, guidance, and investment, and speaking it onto the ethos, that would be, I think, the icing on the cake.
I love it. Well, I'll send that out into the universe. Let's see what happens. Let me know if anything comes of it. But before I let you go, for anyone listening, just wanting to find out more information about Sparkseeker, maybe see it in action, check out a few videos, or even contact your team if they want to get involved, what's the best starting point for everything?
Well, they can always check out our website. That's Sparkseeker.com. So it's SPARKSEEKER.com. On all of the social platforms, that is where we are right now, because that is where our seekers are. And we hope to connect with you there. It's Sparkseekers with an S, and that is our handle on every platform out there. So they can always do that, or they can email us at info@sparkseeker.com.
Well, for anybody listening that has spent 4 hours of their time endlessly scrolling down a social media platform to, at the end of it all, think, well, what have I actually learned? I can't even remember what I did for the last 4 hours, and realise they've wasted their time. I want to do something a bit more productive, break through those algorithms and do something different. I urge them to check out Sparkseeker. And I'd love to hear back from anybody that does give it a try and find out more information on that and what you thought of it. But more than anything, thank you for taking the time to come on here and sharing your inspirational story.
Thank you so much. And for the listeners, any feedback, we love it all. We're here for you. So let us know.
What a great story. And as someone that is guilty of falling into the trap of endlessly scrolling, I'll be checking this out. And what I love most about it, though, is how Callister encountered the same problems that we've all come across, we've all experienced. But she broke the cycle and decided to do something about it. So if anyone listening has encountered a problem and want to do something about it, maybe you want to come on this podcast and talk about it. Whatever it is, please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, just @NeilC.Hughes, and my website if you'd like to work with me or look at over 2,100 different interviews. My website is techblogwriter.co.uk. Now, one of the most common emails I get from listeners is businesses struggling to monitor a growing number of communications from their customers, because as customers, we expect to be able to call, text and email a service provider or company or whoever. And when we enter the workplace, we have even more communication methods, which means We are all constantly switching between multiple apps to get the full conversation. But it doesn't have to be this way. And I want to give a shout out today to a guest you may recall from, I think it was episode 1875, where I had a great conversation with Thomas Gorney, the co-founder and CEO of Nextiva. He had a great startup story, which is truly inspirational. And I urge you to check that out. But the reason I mention him is because at Nextiva, they bring customer and team conversations all together in a single screen. So essentially, with Nextiva, you call, text, chat, video meet, and just about everything you can imagine in that one window, that one app. And the real special thing is that you get to see the entire conversation history into a single thread, and you're not having to switch between all those multiple apps. So now, if a customer contacts you, you'll know their whole story, and you can engage with the customer or your team inside a single app. So if you're interested in having one app to manage your customer and your team conversations, simply visit nextiva.com/techtalkdaily. But that's it for today. I invite you to join me again tomorrow. We'll do it all again. But more than anything, just a big thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.